Hey guys, it's Saturday, March 13th, 2020, and I am just picking up my old 97 Dodge Ram 1-ton with the Cummins 12-valve diesel from having a bunch of transmission work done. I was never happy with the way the transmission worked in this truck, especially towing the trailer. Seemed like a lot of the power coming out of the engine was not making it to the wheels. So I finally broke down and had had it diagnosed, and they did a lot of work to it. And now it's apparently it's fixed, shifts correctly and everything. So it's got all new clutch packs. It's got a beefed up. The torque converter was rebuilt and beefed up. Valve body, kit, electronics, or, you know. And, anywho, this is not about the transmission in the truck. This is about a tractor. And if things go well, by the time you guys see this video and it airs, I will be the owner of that tractor. If things don't go well, it is what it is. It just means it wasn't meant to be. So there's a story behind this. So as I'm driving, I'll tell you my story. So quite a few years ago, like at least 10 years ago, maybe longer, I was out doing some service at somebody's house, and when I was driving to their house, I happened to go by a property that looked like, you know, the grass was really overgrown and everything, and right next to this house was a Ford tractor, a good sized one. And I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, and, you know, I wonder whether or not that tractor's for sale. And I didn't think too much of it, but I kind of made it mental, though. So I kind of put it out of my mind, and then years later, I don't know why, but something was making me think of that. I was driving somewhere, and the road looked familiar to me, and it made me think of that tractor. And I immediately was like, oh, you know, I wonder if that tractor's still there. I should see if I can find that location and see if that tractor's still sitting there in that same place. And when I started to look for it, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the road. So then I was like, well, maybe the house isn't even there anymore. Maybe they tore it down and built a new house. And I even went through like my old service records, my invoices, trying to figure out where this job was that I did. And I couldn't find it. And then fast forward to this past summer, I went to another person's house, and when I left that house, I didn't even notice the property across the street. Didn't pay much mind to it. It was a house that was like really overgrown and in bad shape, and I didn't recognize it. And then the people that live in the house that I went to, they are beekeepers, and they sell honey. And they had given me some honey to try, and I really liked it. So I decided that what I was going to do was I was going to pick up some more of this honey that they have. It's this honey that's infused with hot peppers, which may sound like a strange combination, but it actually works. So anyway, I liked it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get some of this honey. And I went back there to pick up the honey a couple weeks ago, and as we're driving out of their driveway and leaving, I'm looking straight across the street at that house, and I could see, parked right next to it, overgrown in some brush, is the Ford tractor. And it immediately occurs to me, it's the tractor I've been looking for, the white whale, so to speak. So I couldn't believe my eyes that this thing was sitting there the whole time, and I didn't notice it when I was at this house earlier in the summer. So I talked to the people who are the beekeepers. I mentioned it to them, and I said, hey, do you know who owns that property across the street with that old tractor? And she said, no. And ended up finding out that it turns out that during the summer months when everything goes green, that you can't see this thing. It's that overgrown. It's completely obscured from the road. And that's why I didn't notice it when I was there earlier last year. So now that I was kind of like Ahab there with the white whale. This was my white whale, this tractor. I really wanted to find out what the deal was. I didn't want to go onto the property because it was clearly marked no trespassing, and clearly nobody was living in the house. But what ended up happening was I did a little bit of digging, and I found out the current owners of the house. The house is actually in an LLC. Not an LLC, I'm sorry. The house is currently in a realty trust, which is typical, especially here in New England, if you have property that's co-owned by heirs, but you usually have one person who is the designated trustee, and they're the ones who typically get the tax bills mailed to them and get the other stuff, they're in charge, for lack of a better term. So I found out the name and address of this person, and I did a little digging, and I found out that he was the brother of the guy who lived in the house who passed away. He passed away, it looks like he passed away about 6 or 7 years ago. So I got a hold of I found that the brother owned a business here in Massachusetts, and I got the number of the business, and I called and I left the voicemail explaining who I was and that I had an interest in this tractor. And what ended up happening was the guy got back to me like a day later, and we got to talking, and he gave me the rundown on it. And he said basically the tractor belonged to his uncle years ago, and then eventually it passed to his brother, who then passed away. And the tractor's been sitting there. He said the tractor was running, but he said because of COVID, he hasn't even been up to see the property or the tractor in a couple of years. So I got his permission to go onto the property and take a look at the tractor. Now, he was able to give me some information he had written down on the tractor, which was a serial number and a model number. The model number of the tractor, when I put that into Google, told me that this is a 5000 series tractor. So not all Ford 5000s are the same, depending on whether or not they're gas or diesel, depending on whether or not they have, which transmission they might have. All of these factors affect the model number. So even though they're all 5000s, they're all different models. There's the row crop and all of that, right? And the serial number that he gave me told me that this tractor was made in I believe it was either 73 or 74. I forget. It's about a 30-year-old tractor. I'm sorry, about a 50-year-old tractor. Hasn't been running for a while. So if I could get a deal on this thing, I'd love to. Unfortunately, it's quite possible that he's going to want more money for this thing than it's worth. I can't imagine that he hasn't been approached previously by somebody wanting to purchase it for a song. Then again, maybe passers-by who were interested in the tractor just didn't want to, go through as much trouble or due diligence as I did to, search registry listings and stuff like that to figure out who the owners were and how to get a hold of them. I don't know. All right, so we're almost there. I'm going to concentrate on driving. And that old backhoe and some old tractors here on that property. That's right. We're right down the street from there, so. All right, so we're coming up to it now. So that little house right there is the property. See the no trespassing sign there? Mr. Ford. So it looks like it had a tarp over it, and looks like somebody pulled the tarp off at some point. Wheel doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. That's a pretty recent looking tire on the front there. It's too bad that tarp is no longer covering, although it's got a rain cap on the stack there, so that's a good sign. It's funny, this damage on the top is all the kind of damage you would see if it was in a fire. Oh, there's something living in here. Oh, look at this. We got a boom pole attachment on the back here. Might have been part of a post hole digger. We got a 3-point hitch. Goes out saying. These tires are actually in great shape. These tires can't be that old. They're not even weather checked. Give you an idea how long that's been sitting. Sunk it in pretty far. Can't see much. So I noticed on the other side that it had a generator. But that makes sense if, you know, back in 73 or 74. Oh, look at that. There's a block heater. Apparently there's a block heater in this thing. Diesel. There's the injector pump. Looks like the shutdown linkage is... Well, it's free, it moves. Disconnected for some reason. Where is the radiator cap? It's the air filter. So you must have to open the hood to get the radiator cap. So there's no way of telling if there's coolant in this thing. So one of my big concerns would be whether or not, if, you know, this hasn't been serviced for years, is if the cooling system froze and cracked anything. There is no battery in it. See the big battery tray right there. So it goes without saying, I'd love to get my hands on this tractor for, you know, short money. But, all right, well, I've seen what I need to see. There's not a lot of room here. The front tires of this thing are maybe, you're lucky if they're 20 feet off the edge of the pavement here. So loading this onto a trailer might be a little tricky. The good news is, I know the people right across the street, the beekeepers. And they've got quite a bit of room on their property, so I could probably tow this thing across the street onto their property and then load it onto a trailer there. Well, all right. One last look from the road, and you can see how overgrown that is. When that gets all green, it pretty much obscures the tractor from view.